Ever wondered how to sharpen your mind and unlock a level of intelligence that sets you apart in today's chaotic world? The timeless Stoic wisdom of Marcus Aurelius holds the key, practical, life-changing secrets that go beyond book smarts to transform how you think, create, and live. Welcome to ZenLight 8, where we're uncovering 10 Stoic secrets to supercharge your intelligence today. Stick around until the end to learn actionable tips you can start using right now to become wiser, more focused, and truly empowered. Don't miss this. Let's ignite your mind together. Intelligence as a skill to be crafted, Tieng on Hoa Kai. The notion that intelligence is a fixed gift, bestowed at birth like a crown or a curse, is a myth that binds us to mediocrity. The Stoics, those ancient architects of the mind, saw intelligence differently. Not as a static trait, but as a living, breathing skill, sculpted through deliberate effort, polished by curiosity, and tempered by experience. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who ruled an empire while wrestling with his own humanity, understood this deeply. He didn't sit on a throne of innate brilliance. He built his wisdom in the quiet moments of reflection, in the questions he dared to ask himself, and in the courage to act with clarity amid chaos. To the Stoics, intelligence was the art of perceiving the world with precision, understanding its complexities with patience, and moving through life with purpose. It wasn't about knowing everything, it was about knowing what matters. This truth, whispered through centuries, remains as vital today as it was in ancient Rome. Intelligence is not a destination. It's a craft, and we are all artisans of our own minds. Consider the modern world. A whirlwind of notifications, opinions, and fleeting trends that pull our attention in 1,000 directions. We're bombarded with information, yet so few of us pause to transform it into wisdom. The Stoics would argue that true intelligence begins when we step away from the noise, not to escape, but to create. It's in the stillness of a morning walk, the scribbled thoughts in a journal, or the quiet moments before sleep that we begin to forge something deeper than mere knowledge. This is where we ask the questions that matter. What do I believe and why? What am I missing? How can I grow? These aren't just queries. They're the chisels that shape the raw stone of our thoughts into something refined, something enduring. Take a moment to think about someone you admire, someone whose mind seems to glow with clarity, whose words carry weight, whose presence feels like a gift. Maybe it's a teacher who could explain complex ideas with the ease of a storyteller, or a friend who always knows the right question to ask. People like this don't stumble into their brilliance. They build it day by day through habits that mirror the Stoic path. They read voraciously, not to impress, but to understand. They reflect deeply, not to wallow, but to grow. They act thoughtfully, not to prove a point, but to live with integrity. Their intelligence isn't a trophy on a shelf. It's a tool they wield to navigate life's storms and to light the way for others. Let's ground this in a real-world example. Imagine Sarah, a 30-year-old graphic designer in Chicago. By all accounts, she's talented, her work is creative, her portfolio impressive. But Sarah feels stuck, like her mind is running on autopilot. She scrolls through social media, absorbing trends and tutorials, but it leaves her overwhelmed, not inspired. One day, she stumbles across a quote from Marcus Aurelius. "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It hits her like a spark. She starts small, carving out 15 minutes each morning to sit with her thoughts. No phone, no distractions. She writes down one question: what do I want to create today? Not just in my work, but in my life. Over weeks, this habit grows. She begins reading books on philosophy, psychology, even history, not because she has to, but because she's hungry to understand the world. She starts noticing patterns, how a principle in design echoes a lesson in Stoicism, how a historical event mirrors a choice she faces. Her conversations shift too. Instead of small talk, she asks her colleagues what inspires them, what challenges them. Soon, her team looks to her not just for designs, but for ideas, for clarity. Sarah's intelligence isn't just sharper. It's alive, woven into her work, her relationships, her very being. This is the Stoic vision of intelligence. A dynamic force, cultivated through conscious effort. It's not about IQ scores or academic degrees, though those have their place. It's about training your mind to see clearly, to question boldly, and to act wisely. Neuroscience backs this up. Studies on neuroplasticity show that our brains are not fixed. They adapt and grow with practice. When we engage in deliberate reflection, say journaling about a tough decision, we strengthen neural pathways tied to critical thinking. When we pursue curiosity, like learning about a new field, we build connections across disciplines, making our minds more agile. When we act on our insights, like Sarah choosing to lead with intention, we reinforce habits that make wisdom second nature. The Stoics didn't have brain scans, but they intuited this truth. The mind is a muscle, and intelligence is its strength. But here's where the Stoic perspective shifts from mere self-improvement to something profound. Intelligence, to them, wasn't just personal, it was purposeful. Marcus Aurelius didn't sharpen his mind to win debates or gain followers. He did it to serve, to lead with justice, to live in harmony with nature's grand design. Today, that might look like using your clarity to solve a problem at work, your curiosity to inspire a child, or your wisdom to comfort a friend. Intelligence becomes a gift not when it's hoarded, but when it's shared. It's the difference between a mind that dazzles and a mind that transforms. This craft of intelligence requires patience, yes, but it's not a slog. It's a journey that feels alive. There's a quiet thrill in noticing a new connection, like realizing a line from a novel echoes a choice you're facing. There's joy in wrestling with a hard question, not because you find an answer, but because the struggle itself makes you stronger. There's power in acting with intention, knowing your choices align with your deepest values. This is intelligence as the Stoics saw it. Not a cold calculation, but a warm, vibrant force that shapes who you are and how you touch the world. Picture yourself a year from now having embraced this craft. You're not just smarter, you're wiser. You move through life with a quiet confidence, not because you know everything, but because you know how to learn, how to reflect, how to adapt. You're the person others turn to, not for quick fixes, but for perspective that lasts. You're not chasing trends, you're building a mind that endures. That's the promise of the Stoic path, and it starts with a single choice: to see intelligence not as a gift you're given, but as a skill you create. And yet, this craft begins in a place the Stoics cherished above all. A place where the noise fades, and the mind finds its truest voice. That place is solitude, the sacred ground where intelligence takes root. Let's explore it next. The power of solitude, Tieng on Hoa Kai. In a world that hums with constant noise, notifications pinging, voices clamoring, deadlines looming, the idea of solitude might feel like a luxury or even a rebellion. But to the Stoics, solitude was neither an escape nor a privilege. It was a forge, a sacred space where the raw material of the mind could be shaped into something extraordinary. Marcus Aurelius, a man burdened with the weight of an empire, understood this better than most. Amid the chaos of Rome, he carved out moments of stillness, not to retreat from life, but to engage with it more deeply. He knew that intelligence, true intelligence, isn't born in the crowd's roar, but in the quiet whisper of one's own thoughts. Solitude is where we meet ourselves unfiltered, where we challenge our assumptions, wrestle with our questions, and cultivate the intellectual independence that sets us free. Imagine waking up to a day with no agenda, no screens, just you and the vast landscape of your mind. In that stillness, there's no one to impress, no role to play, no noise to drown out the questions that matter. What do I truly value? Where am I blind? How can I grow stronger? These aren't idle musings. They're the sparks that ignite wisdom. Solitude isn't loneliness. It's presence. It's the courage to sit with your thoughts, to let them unfold without rushing to fill the silence. For Marcus, this was a daily ritual. He'd rise before dawn, not to conquer tasks, but to conquer himself. In his journal, later known as Meditations, he poured out reflections that weren't meant for applause but for clarity. Look within, he wrote. Do not allow the special quality that makes you to be overlooked. That quality, your unique capacity for reason, for insight, for growth, flourishes in solitude. where the world's distractions can't dilute it. Let's bring this to life with a story. Meet James, a 40-year-old software engineer in Seattle. His life is a treadmill of meetings, emails, and late-night coding sessions. He's good at his job, but lately he feels like a machine, productive but hollow. One rainy Sunday, frustrated by a project that's stalling, he decides to unplug. No laptop, no phone, just a notebook and a walk through a nearby park. At first, his mind races, itching for distraction. But as the rain patters on his hood, something shifts. He starts asking himself, why am I so restless? What am I chasing? He jots down thoughts, not solutions to code, but questions about his life. Why does he feel unfulfilled despite his success? What would he do if fear didn't hold him back? Over weeks, this becomes a habit. 30 minutes each morning, alone with his thoughts. He reads philosophy not to impress, but to understand. He notices patterns. How his need for approval drives his choices. How his fear of failure clouds his creativity. Slowly, James changes. He speaks up in meetings not to prove himself, but to share ideas. He mentors a junior colleague not for recognition, but because it feels right. Solitude doesn't isolate him. It grounds him, giving him the clarity to live with intention. This is the Stoic power of solitude. It's a sanctuary where the mind can breathe. Modern science echoes this ancient wisdom. Research on mindfulness shows that intentional solitude, time spent without external input, boosts cognitive clarity and emotional resilience. When we step away from distractions, our brain's default mode network, the part responsible for self-reflection and creativity, lights up. We start connecting dots that were invisible in the rush of daily life. A study from the University of California found that people who spent just 15 minutes alone, reflecting on their goals, reported higher focus and lower stress. The Stoics didn't need data to know this, they lived it. Seneca, another Stoic giant, wrote, "Why should I listen to the chatter of the crowd when I can hear the truth in silence?" For them, solitude was a mirror, revealing not just what we think, but why we think it. But solitude isn't about locking yourself away forever. It's about creating space to become more present, not less. Think of it like tuning an instrument before a performance. Without that quiet adjustment, the music is off-key. With it, every note resonates. In solitude, we tune our minds, aligning our thoughts with our values. We question our biases. Why do I assume this is true? We challenge our habits. Am I acting out of fear or purpose? We uncover our blind spots. What am I avoiding? This isn't navel-gazing. It's excavation. It's digging through the layers of noise to find the bedrock of who we are. And when we emerge, we're not just smarter, we're steadier, ready to meet the world with a mind that's clear and a heart that's open. Consider history's great minds. Einstein, lost in thought during long walks, didn't just stumble into relativity. He found it in the quiet spaces where his imagination could roam. Maya Angelou wrote her most powerful works in hotel rooms, alone, surrounded by silence that let her soul speak. Even in our hyper-connected age, solitude remains a secret weapon. Oprah Winfrey, a beacon of modern wisdom, starts her day in stillness, reflecting on what matters before the world demands her attention. These aren't coincidences. Solitude is the soil where brilliance grows. Yet solitude can feel daunting. We're wired for connection, and the idea of being alone with our thoughts can stir unease. What if we don't like what we find? What if the silence feels empty? The Stoics would urge us to lean into that discomfort. You must linger in your own company, Marcus wrote, to know your own strength. That discomfort is a signal you're touching something real. It's the edge of growth, where assumptions crumble and clarity emerges. Start small. 10 minutes with a journal, a walk without earbuds, a moment to watch the sunrise and ask, what do I want today to mean? Over time, those moments compound. They become a habit, then a sanctuary, then a superpower. Solitude, then, is not retreat, it's preparation. It's where we forge the intellectual independence to stand firm in a world that pulls us in every direction. It's where we learn to trust our own voice, not because it's loud, but because it's true. It's where we become not just thinkers, but philosophers of our own lives, ready to act with wisdom and live with purpose. And as we cultivate this inner strength, we begin to notice something else stirring. A spark that drives us to explore, to question, to grow. That spark is curiosity, the fuel that takes solitude's quiet insights and sets them ablaze. Curiosity, the fuel for limitless learning, Tieng on Hoa Kai. If solitude is the forge where intelligence is shaped, curiosity is the fire that keeps it burning. The Stoics, with their relentless hunger for wisdom, saw curiosity not as a fleeting whim but as a sacred force, a compass guiding us through the vast classroom of life. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher who navigated Rome's treacherous politics, wrote, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." These weren't empty words. They were a battle cry for a mind that refuses to stagnate. To the Stoics, curiosity was the engine of intelligence, driving us to ask, to explore, to connect ideas across the boundaries of time and discipline. It's the voice that whispers, "What else is there?" and the courage to chase the answer, no matter where it leads. In a world obsessed with answers, curiosity is the art of falling in love with questions. Picture a child, wide-eyed, tugging at the world's edges. Why is the sky blue? How do birds know where to fly? That raw, unfiltered wonder isn't childish. It's the essence of intelligence. Somewhere along the way, many of us lose it, trading questions for routines, exploration for certainty. But the Stoics never did. They saw life as an endless inquiry, each day a chance to peel back another layer of truth. Marcus Aurelius didn't rule an empire by memorizing facts. He did it by questioning deeply, what is just? What is lasting? What is mine to control? His curiosity wasn't random, it was purposeful, aimed at living better, not just knowing more. Today, that same curiosity can transform us, turning a mundane moment, a commute, a conversation, a quiet evening, into a portal to wisdom. Let's ground this with a story. Meet Aisha, a 25-year-old barista in Austin, Texas. Her days are a blur of espresso shots and small talk, but her mind is restless. She loves her job, but she feels there's more to her than steaming milk. One evening, she overhears a customer mention a documentary about the universe. Intrigued, she watches it that night. It's not just stars and galaxies. It's questions. What is time? Why does anything exist? Aisha's hooked. She starts a curiosity list in her phone, jotting down topics that spark her interest. Cosmology, philosophy, even poetry. Each week, she dives into one, reading articles, watching lectures, scribbling thoughts in a notebook. She's no expert, but that's not the point. She's alive with questions. At work, she starts asking customers about their passions, not to pry, but to learn. One day, a professor, notices her enthusiasm and invites her to a lecture series. A year later, Aisha's enrolled in community college, studying astronomy. Not because she planned to, but because curiosity led her there. Her life isn't just bigger. It's richer, woven with connections she never imagined. This is curiosity's magic. It doesn't just fill your mind. It expands your world. The Stoics knew this, but science confirms it too. Psychologists call curiosity a knowledge emotion, a state that drives learning and strengthens memory. When we're genuinely curious, our brains release dopamine, making exploration feel rewarding. A 2014 study in Neuron found that curious people retain information longer because their brains tag it as meaningful. When Aisha watched that documentary, her questions didn't just spark interest. They rewired her mind, linking new ideas to old dreams. Curiosity doesn't care about credentials or expertise. It's democratic, available to anyone willing to ask, what if? But curiosity isn't just about chasing shiny new facts. For the Stoics, it was disciplined, tethered to virtue. They didn't pursue knowledge to impress. They pursued it to grow. Seneca warned against shallow curiosity, the kind that schemes surfaces without digging deep. True curiosity, he argued, asks hard questions. Why do I act this way? What's beneath my fears? How does this truth shape my choices? It's not enough to know that the sky is blue. You must wonder what it means for your place in the universe. This is curiosity with purpose, the kind that doesn't just collect ideas but weaves them into a life of meaning. Think of curiosity as a river, carving new paths through your mind. The more you follow it, the wider it flows. Read a book on psychology, and suddenly you see its principles in your friendships. Watch a documentary on history, and you notice its echoes in today's headlines. Listen to a stranger's story, and you find a lesson that shifts your perspective. This is what the Stoics meant by learning how to live, not mastering one subject, but seeing the world as a web of connections, each thread leading to deeper understanding. It's why Leonardo da Vinci, a Stoic in spirit if not in name, sketched machines, studied anatomy, and wrote poetry. His curiosity didn't confine itself. It roamed, linking art to science, beauty to truth. In our age of endless content, curiosity can feel overwhelming. Algorithms feed us bite-sized facts, but the Stoics would urge us to go deeper. Don't just watch a video. Ask what it reveals about human nature. Don't just read a headline. Wonder what's left unsaid. Start a curiosity list like Aisha did, and dedicate time each week to explore one topic. It could be quantum physics, jazz music, or the history of your hometown. The subject matters less than the act of pursuit. Ask why, then how, then what if. Let one question lead to another, like stepping stones across a vast unknown. Over time, you'll notice something remarkable. Your mind doesn't just hold more, it sees more. Patterns emerge, ideas connect. A conversation about art sparks a thought about ethics. A lesson from nature mirrors a choice at work. This is intelligence in motion, fueled by curiosity's boundless energy. Curiosity also builds resilience. The Stoics faced a brutal world, war, betrayal, mortality. Yet their questions kept them grounded. When Marcus wondered, "What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears," he wasn't despairing. He was exploring, using curiosity to find meaning in pain. Today, that might look like asking, "What can this setback teach me?" Or, "How does this challenge reveal my strength?" Curiosity turns obstacles into opportunities, not by ignoring hardship, but by engaging with it. It's the difference between being crushed by failure and rising from it wiser. And here's the beauty. Curiosity is contagious. When you share your questions, you spark them in others. Aisha's enthusiasm at the coffee shop didn't just change her. It inspired her customers, her friends, even her professor. In a team meeting, you're curious, what if we tried this? Can ignite ideas no one else saw. At a family dinner, your tell me more can turn small talk into connection. Curiosity doesn't just make you smarter. It makes you a catalyst, a light that invites others to explore too. So embrace curiosity as the Stoics did, not as a luxury, but as a lifeline. Let it pull you into books, conversations, moments of wonder. Let it challenge your certainties and expand your horizons. Let it remind you that learning isn't a task. It's a way of being. And as your questions deepen, you'll find they don't just sharpen your mind. They enrich your soul. But questions alone aren't enough. To truly grow, we must take the insights born in solitude and kindled by curiosity and give them shape through contemplation. That's where deep thinking comes in, the Stoic art of turning fleeting thoughts into lasting wisdom. Deep thinking, the key to wisdom, Tieng on Hoa Kai. In a world that prizes speed, fast answers, quick fixes, instant results, the Stoics offer a radical counterpoint. True wisdom is born not in haste, but in depth. Deep thinking, the disciplined art of slowing down to explore an idea's layers, was the cornerstone of their philosophy. Marcus Aurelius didn't rush to judgments, nor did Seneca settle for surface truths. They dissected ideas with the precision of surgeons, testing them against logic, experience, and virtue. To them, intelligence wasn't about having all the answers. It was about asking better questions, lingering in uncertainty, and uncovering meaning that others overlooked. Deep thinking is the chisel that carves raw thoughts into enduring wisdom, and in today's frenetic age, it's a skill that can transform not just how we think, but how we live. Imagine sitting with a single question. Say, What does it mean to be happy? And resisting the urge to Google an answer. Instead, you turn it over in your mind, like a stone smoothed by a river. You ask, is happiness a feeling, a choice, a state of being? Does it come from within or without? What have I learned from my joys, my sorrows? This isn't daydreaming, it's excavation. Deep thinking demands focus, the kind that shuts out distractions and dives beneath the obvious. It's the opposite of mental multitasking, which scatters our attention like leaves in the wind. The Stoics knew that shallow thinking, reacting without reflecting, assuming without analyzing, breeds confusion. But depth brings clarity, the kind that anchors us in chaos and lights our way through complexity. Let's bring this to life with a story. Meet Elena, a 35-year-old marketing manager in New York City. Her days are a blur of campaigns, emails, and deadlines. She's smart, driven, but lately, she feels like she's skimming life's surface. Decisions pile up. Should she take a new job offer? How should she handle a tense team dynamic? And her instinct is to act fast, to fix things. But the fixes don't last. One evening, exhausted, she stumbles across a line from Seneca. There is no enjoying the possession of anything valuable unless one has someone to share it with. Stops her cold. Instead of brushing it off, she decides to sit with it. She grabs a notebook and writes, "What makes something valuable to me? Why do I feel alone even in a crowd?" For an hour, she wrestles with these questions, not rushing to answers. She recalls moments of connection, a laugh with her sister, a mentor's advice, and moments of emptiness, like chasing likes on social media. She starts seeing patterns. Her busyness masks a fear of being still. Her quick decisions dodge deeper truths. Over weeks, Elena builds a habit, 30 minutes each night, reflecting on one idea. She debates herself. Is this choice aligned with my values? What's driving my fear? Slowly, her decisions sharpen. She turns down the job, realizing it's prestige, not purpose, pulling her. She addresses her team's tension, not with a snap fix, but with honest dialogue. Elena's not just solving problems. She's crafting wisdom, one thoughtful moment at a time. This is deep thinking's power. It turns fleeting thoughts into foundations. The Stoics practiced this relentlessly. Marcus would pause amid Rome's chaos to ask, "What is this thing in itself?" Not what it seemed, but what it was. A betrayal wasn't just pain. It was a chance to practice forgiveness. A triumph wasn't just joy. It was a test of humility. This wasn't abstract philosophy. It was practical. By slowing down, they saw what others missed, the hidden motives behind actions, the long-term ripples of choices. Modern science backs this up. Research on deliberate rumination shows that focused reflection strengthens our prefrontal cortex, the brain's hub for reasoning and decision-making. When we linger on a question, we're not just pondering, we're rewiring our minds to see clearly. A 2017 study in psychological science found that people who took time to analyze complex problems outperformed those who rushed, not because they were smarter, but because they were deeper. But deep thinking isn't easy. It requires courage to sit with uncertainty, to resist the itch for quick closure. Our brains crave simplicity. Black and white answers feel safe. Yet the Stoics embraced ambiguity, knowing that truth often hides in the gray. When Marcus wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it," he wasn't preaching dogma, he was urging scrutiny. Deep thinking means questioning not just the world, but ourselves. Why do I believe this? Where did this fear come from? What if I'm wrong? These questions can feel like standing at a cliff's edge, but they're also where growth begins. The discomfort of doubt is the soil where wisdom blooms. Think of deep thinking as a conversation with your inner philosopher. You're not chasing answers, you're uncovering layers. Take a concept like success. On the surface, it's money, status, applause. Dig deeper. Is it freedom, impact, peace? Deeper still, does it align with who I am, not who the world wants me to be? This process isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Each layer reveals a truth, and each truth strengthens your mind's muscle. History's great thinkers lived this. Socrates, a Stoic inspiration, built entire philosophies by probing one idea at a time, never settling for easy truths. Virginia Woolf wrote novels by lingering in her characters' minds, finding universal truths in their quiet struggles. Even today, leaders like Satya Nadella, Microsoft's CEO, credit reflective pauses for their clearest strategies, not reacting but reasoning. Deep thinking also builds resilience. The Stoics faced a brutal world, disease, exile, death. Yet their reflections kept them steady. When Seneca was banished, he didn't rage. He wrote, exploring exile's meaning until it became a teacher. Today, that might look like reflecting on a failure. What did I learn? How does this shape my path? Instead of spiraling, you stabilize. You don't just solve the problem, you grow beyond it. This is wisdom, not as a trophy, but as a compass, guiding you through life's storms with calm and clarity. And here's the gift. Deep thinking doesn't just clarify your mind, it enriches your soul. There's a quiet joy in unraveling a complex idea, like solving a puzzle that's been true forever. There's strength in knowing your choices come from reason, not impulse. There's peace in seeing the world not as chaos, but as a pattern you can navigate. This is the Stoic promise. A mind that doesn't just think, but understands. A life that doesn't just happen, but means something. Teaching the path to mastery, Tieng on Hoa Kai. If deep thinking forges wisdom, teaching is the fire that refines it. The Stoics didn't hoard their insights. They shared them, not for glory, but for growth. To explain an idea, to make it clear to another, is to deepen your own understanding, to test its truth, and to weave it into the fabric of your being. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, but his words were a dialogue with humanity, meant to guide others as they guided him. Seneca's letters to Lucilius weren't just advice. They were a mirror, sharpening his own philosophy with every word. For the Stoics, teaching wasn't a performance. It was a sacred act, a way to clarify the mind, humble the ego, and serve the common good. In teaching, we don't just impart knowledge, we become masters of our own. Think about the last time you explained something, a recipe, a work process, a belief. Did you notice how the act of breaking it down made it clearer to you? Teaching forces us to organize chaos, to trace our thoughts back to their roots, to find language for what we feel but haven't named. It's like cleaning a cluttered room. You discover what's essential, what's broken, what's been overlooked. The Stoics understood this alchemy. They didn't teach to impress. They taught to understand, to test their ideas against the world's reality. When Seneca wrote, "While we teach, we learn," he wasn't being poetic. He was describing a truth as old as wisdom itself. Let's ground this with a story. Meet David, a 28-year-old high school math teacher in Denver. He loves math, but his first year teaching is a struggle. His students are disengaged, his lessons feel flat. He knows the material, but something's missing. One day, a student asks, "Why does algebra even matter?" David freezes. He's never had to explain it beyond it's useful. That night, he sits with the question. He reflects on why math excites him. It's logic, patterns, a way to solve life's puzzles. He starts the next class differently, not with formulas but with a story about how algebra helped design a bridge. He breaks it down, linking equations to real-world impact. The students lean in. David realizes something. Explaining math isn't just about clarity, it's about connection. He starts a blog, writing about math's beauty for parents and colleagues. Each post forces him to simplify without losing depth, to find analogies that spark curiosity. Over months, his teaching transforms. His classes are alive with questions, his students engaged. But the real change is in David. He's not just a better teacher, he's a better thinker, his understanding of math deeper, his confidence quieter but stronger. Teaching hasn't just changed his students, it's changed him. This is teaching's magic. It's a mirror and a forge. When you explain an idea, you're forced to confront its gaps. You notice where your logic falters, where your assumptions hide. A 2018 study in memory and cognition found that teaching others boosts retention and comprehension. Students who explained concepts scored higher than those who studied alone. Why? Because teaching demands active engagement. You don't just recall facts, you rebuild them, testing their strength. The Stoics lived this. Epictetus, a former slave turned philosopher, taught by questioning his students, refining his own ideas through their challenges. His school wasn't a stage. It was a workshop where wisdom was honed through dialogue. But teaching isn't just about clarity. It's about humility. The Stoics saw knowledge as a shared endeavor, not a private trophy. When you teach, you invite scrutiny. A child's why or a colleague's counterpoint can expose your blind spots. This isn't failure, it's growth. Marcus wrote, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective. I'll gladly change." That's the Stoic teacher's spirit. Open to correction, eager to refine. Today, that might look like blogging about a new skill, only to rewrite it after a reader's feedback. Or leading a team discussion, then rethinking your approach when someone offers a better angle. Teaching humbles us, reminding us that mastery isn't a finish line. It's a journey. Teaching also builds connection. The Stoics believed we're born to help each other, that wisdom gains life when shared. When David told his students about algebra's role in bridges, he wasn't just teaching math, he was showing them possibility. When you explain a life lesson to a friend, say, how you overcame fear, you're not just clarifying your own path, you're lighting theirs. This ripples outward. A 2020 study in social psychology found that sharing knowledge strengthens relationships, fostering trust and empathy. Teaching isn't just intellectual, it's human, a bridge between souls. And here's the deeper truth. Teaching shapes who you are. To explain an idea well, you must embody it. If you teach patience, you must practice it. If you teach courage, you must live it. The Stoics didn't just share ideas, they lived them, their lessons a reflection of their character. Today, that might mean mentoring a coworker not just to boost their skills, but to become the leader you aspire to be. Or writing about forgiveness not just to inspire others, but to heal yourself. Teaching forces you to align your words with your life, to become not just a thinker, but a doer. Start small. Explain a new idea to a friend. Write a post as if teaching a stranger. Summarize a book in your own words. Each act sharpens your mind, deepens your understanding, and roots your wisdom in reality. There's a quiet thrill in seeing someone's eyes light up because of your words, in knowing you've clarified not just their thoughts, but your own. This is mastery, not as a title, but as a way of being clear, purposeful, connected. Yet, the Stoic path doesn't end here. Solitude, curiosity, deep thinking, and teaching are threads in a larger tapestry. To weave them into impact, we must carry our wisdom into the world. Not just to think wisely, but to live brilliantly. That's where the Stoic social advantage begins, where intelligence becomes not just a gift, but a force for good. The Stoic social advantage. Tieng on Hoa Kai. In a world obsessed with loud voices and flashy displays, the Stoics offer a quieter, more powerful path to influence. The social advantage of a mind honed in stillness and wielded with purpose. Intelligence, when cultivated through solitude, curiosity, and deep reflection, doesn't just shine within. It radiates outward, drawing others in with a magnetic force that's subtle yet undeniable. Marcus Aurelius, a man who led an empire not by shouting but by listening, knew this well. His presence wasn't built on dominance or charm but on depth, authenticity, and a quiet clarity that made others feel seen. The Stoic social advantage isn't about overpowering a room. It's about elevating it, not through force but through insight, not by demanding attention but by offering value. It's the art of being so grounded in wisdom that your words, your silence, your very being become a gift to those around you. Picture yourself at a gathering, maybe a work meeting, a family dinner, or a coffee shop debate. The conversation hums along, voices overlapping, opinions clashing. Then someone speaks, not loudly but deliberately. Their words cut through the noise, not because they're clever, but because they're true. They don't dominate, they illuminate, offering a perspective that shifts the room's energy. People lean in, not out of obligation, but out of curiosity. That's the Stoic social advantage. A presence that doesn't demand but invites, doesn't compete but connects. It's the difference between being heard and being felt, between leaving an impression and leaving an impact. Let's bring this to life with a story. Meet Priya, a 32-year-old nonprofit coordinator in San Francisco. She's always been shy, more comfortable listening than speaking. At team meetings, she'd stay quiet, assuming her ideas weren't big enough. But after reading Epictetus, who taught that we control only our thoughts and actions, Priya starts a new practice. She spends 20 minutes each morning reflecting on her values: kindness, clarity, impact. She reads widely: philosophy, history, even poetry, not to show off but to understand the world's threads. At her next meeting, when the team debates a fundraising strategy, she hesitates, then speaks. What if we focus on stories, not stats? People connect to meaning. Her words are simple, but they land with weight. The room pauses, nods, builds on her idea. Over months, Priya's presence shifts. Colleagues seek her input, not because she's loud, but because she's thoughtful. At a community event, she listens to a donor's concerns, then shares a quiet insight about hope that leaves them teary-eyed. Priya's not chasing the spotlight. She's becoming it. Her intelligence a beacon forged in stillness and shared with sincerity. This is the Stoic social advantage. Intelligence that doesn't overwhelm but uplifts. The Stoics believed wisdom, cultivated in solitude, must be tested in society, not to prove superiority, but to serve. Seneca wrote, "The wise man is not raised up by prosperity or cast down by adversity. He is always at the same height." That height isn't arrogance. It's steadiness, a presence that calms chaos. In a 2019 study from Social Psychological and Personality Science, researchers found that people who listen actively and share thoughtful insights are rated as more influential than those who dominate conversations. Why? Because depth resonates. When you speak from reflection, your words carry the weight of truth, not the flash of ego. When you listen, truly listen, you create space for others to shine, which, paradoxically, makes you unforgettable. But this advantage isn't accidental. It's cultivated. The Stoics didn't stumble into social grace. They built it through habits we can emulate. Reading widely, as Priya did, equips you to engage on any topic, from politics to art, not to impress but to connect. Listening more than you speak sharpens your understanding, letting you respond with precision rather than reflex. Contributing meaningfully, offering an idea, a question, a perspective, elevates discussions without hijacking them. These aren't tricks. They're disciplines, rooted in the Stoic belief that we're here to help each other grow. Marcus didn't lead Rome to win praise, he led to build justice. Today, that might look like steering a heated debate toward common ground, or asking a quiet coworker, "What do you think?" and watching them bloom. It's intelligence as service, wisdom as a bridge. The beauty of this approach is its authenticity. The Stoic doesn't perform, they embody. Their charisma isn't rehearsed. It's earned through reflection and integrity. Think of someone like Fred Rogers, the gentle soul behind Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He wasn't loud, yet his words stopped the world. Why? Because he spoke from a place of deep thought and genuine care. Each sentence a gift wrapped in sincerity. Or consider Angela Merkel, whose quiet resolve led Germany through crises. Not by shouting, but by reasoning, listening, and acting with purpose. These modern Stoics show us that social influence isn't about volume. It's about value. And here's the deeper gift. This advantage transforms not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. When you contribute with depth, you feel aligned, as if your mind and heart are singing in harmony. When you listen with presence, you learn not just about others, but about the world's vastness. When you elevate a conversation, you're not just sharing wisdom, you're living it. This is the Stoic social advantage. A life where intelligence isn't a trophy but a tool, where your presence doesn't just shine, it inspires. Solitude as a catalyst for creativity. If the Stoic social advantage is intelligence in motion, solitude is where it finds its spark. We often think of creativity as the domain of artists, painters splashing color, poets weaving words, but the Stoics saw it differently. To them, creativity was the mind's ability to see what others miss, to forge connections across the chaos of existence, to craft ideas that endure. Solitude, that sacred stillness Marcus Aurelius cherished, was their laboratory for this alchemy. Far from empty silence, it was a vibrant space where imagination could roam, where questions could breathe, and where the seeds of genius could take root. In our noisy world, solitude remains a catalyst for creativity. Not a retreat, but a rekindling, a place where the mind becomes not just a thinker, but a creator. Close your eyes and imagine a moment alone. No phone, no voices, just you and the vast canvas of your thoughts. The world fades and something stirs. A question floats up. What if I approached this differently? An image forms, a project, a dream, a possibility. In that quiet, there's no judgment, no deadline, just space to play with ideas, to let them collide and spark. This is solitude's gift. It's not absence, but presence. A playground where your mind can dance without fear. The Stoics knew this intuitively. Marcus didn't write meditations for fame. He wrote to explore, to connect his inner world with the universe's truths. His solitude wasn't isolation. It was creation, a forge where insights were born that still guide us centuries later. Let's ground this with a story. Meet Liam, a 29-year-old freelance writer in Portland. His days are packed, client emails, deadlines, social media hustle. His work is good, but it feels formulaic, like he's recycling ideas. Burned out, he takes a weekend off, driving to a cabin with no Wi-Fi. At first, the silence is unnerving. His mind itches for a screen. But by day 2, something shifts. Sitting by a lake, he lets his thoughts wander. He recalls a childhood memory, a treehouse he built with his dad, and wonders, what made that so magical? He jots down ideas, not for a client, but for himself. Freedom, simplicity, building something real. That night, he sketches a story about a man rediscovering wonder. Back home, he carves out an hour each morning, no laptop, just a notebook. He reflects on books he's read, conversations he's had, letting them blend with his daydreams. Months later, his story becomes a published essay, not just well-written, but alive with insight. Liam's not just writing, he's creating. His solitude a wellspring of ideas that feel uniquely his. This is solitude's creative power. It unlocks what's already within you. Science supports this. A 2021 study in Frontiers in Psychology found that intentional solitude boosts divergent thinking, the ability to generate novel ideas. Without external input, your brain connects dots it couldn't in a crowd. When Liam sat by that lake, his mind wasn't idle. It was synthesizing, linking a memory to a feeling to an idea. The Stoics didn't have neuroscience, but they lived this truth. Seneca retreated to his study not to hide, but to explore, his letters brimming with analogies that turned philosophy into poetry. Epictetus taught in quiet moments, his ideas sharp because they were refined in solitude's clarity. Creativity, in the Stoic sense, isn't just art, it's vision. It's seeing a problem at work and imagining a new solution. It's hearing a friend struggle and offering a perspective they hadn't considered. It's looking at your life and asking, what could I build here? Solitude makes this possible by stripping away the noise that clouds our intuition. Think of J.K. Rowling scribbling Harry Potter in a cafe. Not a true solitude, but a mental one, her focus a shield against the world. Or Steve Jobs, who took long walks to think different. His best ideas born in quiet reflection. These aren't exceptions. Solitude is creativity's common thread, a space where the ordinary becomes extraordinary. But solitude's creative spark requires intention. It's not enough to be alone, you must engage. The Stoics didn't sit passively. They questioned, they wrote, they imagined. Marcus asked, what is this thing's essence? And let his mind roam to answers. Today, that might look like reflecting on a book. How does this idea connect to my life? Or daydreaming with purpose. What would my ideal project look like? Start small. Create a quiet space, a corner, a park bench, and spend 15 minutes letting your thoughts drift. Don't force answers, just explore. After watching a movie, don't scroll. Instead, wonder, what did that story reveal about courage, love, loss? Over time, these moments compound, turning your mind into a garden where ideas bloom. And here's the deeper truth. Solitude's creativity isn't selfish. It's generous. The ideas born in your quiet moments become gifts to the world. Liam's essay didn't just fulfill him. It touched readers. Marcus's Meditations wasn't meant for us, yet it guides millions. When you create in solitude, you're not just enriching your mind, you're preparing to enrich others, to offer insights that spark change. This is creativity as the Stoics saw it, not a luxury, but a duty, a way to live fully and give fully. Yet, solitude and creativity are only half the equation. To truly harness their power, we must weave them into a cycle, a loop where questions fuel reflection and reflection fuels questions. That's where the Stoic journey deepens, where intelligence becomes not just a skill, but a way of life. The Curiosity-Solitude Loop, Tieng on Hoa Kai. In the dance of the mind, curiosity and solitude move as partners, each step amplifying the other, creating a rhythm that transforms intelligence into wisdom. The Stoics, those tireless explorers of the human spirit, understood this interplay intuitively. Curiosity, the spark that drives us to question, pulls us into solitude, where the noise of the world fades and our thoughts can breathe. Solitude, in turn, sharpens that spark, turning fleeting questions into profound insights. Together, they form a loop, a powerful cycle of self-education that builds not just knowledge but understanding. Not just facts, but meaning. Marcus Aurelius didn't stumble into wisdom. He cultivated it through this recursive process, retreating to reflect, questioning to grow, then returning to the world richer for it. In our distracted age, this curiosity-solitude loop is a lifeline, a way to turn the chaos of information into the clarity of a life well lived. Picture a moment of wonder. You hear a fact that stops you cold, say, that the universe is 13.8 billion years old. Your mind lights up. What was before that? How do we even measure eternity? Instead of scrolling for an answer, you step away, find a quiet corner, and let the questions unfold. In that stillness, your curiosity deepens. One thought leads to another. If time is infinite, what's my place in it? If the universe is vast, what matters in my tiny life? You jot down ideas not to solve the mystery, but to explore it. Later, you read a book on cosmology, watch a lecture, ask a friend their thoughts. Each step pulls you back to solitude, where the cycle begins anew. Questions sparking reflection, reflection sparking questions. This isn't just learning. It's living, a dynamic process that makes your mind not just fuller, but freer. Let's ground this with a story. Meet Sophia, a 27-year-old nurse in Atlanta. Her job is demanding, long shifts, emotional weight, but she's always been curious, the kind of person who asks, why, even when exhausted. One day, she reads an article about mindfulness and its effects on stress. Intrigued, she wonders, could this help my patients? Could it help me? That evening, she tries something new. 20 minutes alone. No phone, just a notebook. She writes, what is mindfulness, really? Is it just breathing, or something deeper? In the quiet, her thoughts wander. She recalls a patient's gratitude, a moment of calm amid chaos, and connects it to the article's ideas. The next day, she watches a TED Talk on meditation, then returns to her notebook. Her questions evolve. How does presence change pain? Can I teach this to others? Over weeks, Sophia builds a habit. Each Sunday, she picks a topic, gratitude, empathy, resilience, and dives deep, alternating between research and reflection. She starts noticing patterns. How a study on gratitude echoes a patient's smile, how a philosophy podcast mirrors her own struggles. Her nursing shifts feel different now. She's calmer, more present. Even when the ER is a storm, she shares her insights with colleagues, sparking discussions that make the whole team stronger. Sophia's not just learning. She's weaving a tapestry of wisdom, thread by thread, through curiosity and solitude. This is the Curiosity-Solitude Loop's magic. It turns fleeting sparks into lasting flames. The Stoics lived this cycle. Seneca didn't just read, he reflected, writing letters that wrestled with life's big questions. Marcus didn't just rule, he retreated, asking himself how to live justly in an unjust world. Their curiosity wasn't aimless. It was disciplined, a tool for growth. Science backs this up. A 2016 study in Nature Communications found that curiosity enhances memory by activating the brain's reward system, making new information stickier. When Sophia pondered mindfulness, her brain didn't just store facts. It tagged them as meaningful, linking them to her life. Solitude amplifies this. Research from the University of British Columbia shows that quiet reflection strengthens neural connections, helping us integrate knowledge into deeper frameworks. In solitude, your mind isn't a sponge. It's a loom weaving ideas into patterns that endure. But this loop isn't just about retention, it's about transformation. Curiosity pulls you into new terrain. A book on history, a podcast on ethics, a stranger's story. Solitude lets you process it, asking, what does this mean for me? How does it connect to what I know? The Stoics called this living according to nature, using reason to find harmony in a chaotic world. Today, that might look like watching a documentary on climate change, then sitting alone to wonder, what's my role in this? You read about conservation, reflect on your habits, and realize small choices like cutting plastic use connect to a larger purpose. The loop keeps turning. Your actions spark new questions, new reflections, new growth. Over time, your mind becomes a network, not of facts, but of insights, each node a bridge to deeper understanding. The loop also builds resilience. The Stoics faced a brutal world, war, loss, betrayal. Yet their questions kept them steady. When Marcus asked, what need is there to run from death? He wasn't dodging pain. He was engaging it, using curiosity to find meaning. In solitude, he turned fear into philosophy. Today, that might mean reflecting on a setback. Why did this hurt? What can I learn? Instead of spiraling, you stabilize your curiosity a compass through the storm. A 2020 study in emotion found that reflective curiosity, pondering life's challenges, reduces anxiety and boosts problem-solving. Sophia's quiet Sundays didn't just teach her mindfulness. They taught her strength, her questions a shield against burnout. And here's the deeper gift. This loop is endless. Each question leads to another, each reflection to new wonder. It's not about mastering one topic. It's about mastering the art of learning itself. Start small. Pick one topic a week like Sophia did. Dive into it. Read, watch, listen, then step away to reflect. Ask, what surprised me? What's unclear? What if I'm wrong? Let your thoughts wander, not to find answers, but to find better questions. Over time, you'll notice your mind isn't just sharper. It's alive, a garden where ideas bloom and connect. You'll see patterns others miss. How a poem echoes a business strategy. How a patient's courage mirrors a historical hero. This is intelligence as the Stoics saw it. Not a finish line, but a journey, fueled by curiosity and grounded in solitude. The philosopher in conversation. If the Curiosity-Solitude Loop weaves wisdom within, conversation is where it takes flight. The Stoics weren't hermits. They thrived in dialogue, using words not to boast but to explore, not to win but to understand. Inspired by Socrates, who built entire philosophies through questions, they saw conversation as a forge, a mirror, a bridge. Marcus Aurelius didn't just reflect alone. He shared his insights, testing them against others' truths. Seneca's letters weren't monologues. They were invitations, sparking clarity through exchange. For the Stoics, to converse was to philosophize, to peel back life's layers with curiosity and care. In today's world of shallow chatter and heated debates, becoming a philosopher in conversation is a radical act. One that doesn't just sharpen your mind, but elevates everyone around you. Imagine a discussion where no one's trying to prove a point. Instead, questions hang in the air like stars. Why do you think that? What's beneath this idea? How could we see this differently? Someone listens, not to reply, but to understand. Someone shares, not to impress, but to connect. That's the Stoic ideal. Conversation as a shared journey, not a battle. It's not about being the loudest voice, but the most thoughtful. Not about dazzling, but illuminating. When you speak from reflection, your words carry weight, not because they're clever, but because they're true. When you listen with presence, you don't just hear, you learn, creating space for ideas to grow. Let's bring this to life with a story. Meet Javier, a 34-year-old architect in Miami. He's always loved ideas, but at social gatherings, he'd either dominate debates or stay silent, feeling out of place. After reading Seneca, who wrote, "Let us say what we feel and feel what we say," Javier decides to change. He starts practicing active listening. At a friend's dinner, instead of arguing politics, he asks, "What shaped your view on this?" And really hears the answer. The conversation shifts. People open up, ideas flow. At work, he tries sharing insights from his morning reflections, say how a book on design mirrors teamwork without forcing his point. His colleagues lean in not because he's loud, but because he's thoughtful. One day, a client challenges a project's direction. Instead of defending, Javier asks, "What's your vision for this space?" and listens. The client's ideas spark a solution neither saw alone. Javier's not just talking. He's philosophizing. His conversation's a canvas for connection and clarity. This is the Stoic art of conversation. Dialogue as discovery. The Stoics didn't see talking as performance. They saw it as inquiry. Socrates wandered Athens, asking questions that exposed assumptions and uncovered truths. His legacy shaped Stoicism's belief that conversation refines us. A 2022 study in Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that deep, curious conversations, where people ask why and how, build stronger bonds and sharper minds than small talk. Why? Because they engage our whole selves, intellect, emotion, curiosity. When Javier asked his client's vision, he wasn't just solving a problem. He was building trust. His question a bridge to mutual understanding. But this art requires discipline. The Stoics didn't speak for applause, they spoke for truth. Epictetus taught that silence is often wiser than chatter, urging us to listen until we have something worth saying. Today, that might mean pausing in a heated debate to ask, "What do we both want here?" instead of proving your point. It's listening to a coworker's frustration, not to fix it, but to understand what's been toughest for you. It's sharing an insight, not to shine, but to spark. This idea changed how I see things. What do you think? These habits don't just elevate dialogue. They elevate you, rooting your words in reflection and your presence in care. Conversation also tests your wisdom. The Stoics believed ideas must face the world's friction to grow strong. When you share a thought, you invite challenge, a friend's doubt, a stranger's perspective. This isn't failure, it's refinement. Marcus welcomed correction, writing, "I'm grateful to anyone who shows me my error." Today, that might look like rethinking a belief after a coworker's counterpoint, or rephrasing an idea when a friend misunderstands. Each exchange sharpens your clarity, your empathy, your truth. A 2021 study in cognitive science found that explaining ideas in dialogue boosts understanding, as feedback reveals gaps and strengthens logic. Javier's client discussion didn't just solve a design issue, it deepened his own vision. And here's the deeper gift. Philosophical conversation transforms relationships. The Stoics saw humans as interconnected, born to lift each other up. When you ask a thoughtful question, you don't just learn, you make someone feel seen. When you share a reflective insight, you don't just inform, you inspire. Think of Oprah Winfrey, whose interviews aren't just talks. Their journeys, her curiosity drawing out truths that resonate globally. Or Nelson Mandela, whose quiet questions disarmed opponents, turning conflict into dialogue. These modern Stoics show that conversation isn't just exchange. It's creation, a space where minds meet and grow. Start small. Listen actively, as Javier did, giving your full attention. Ask curious questions. What led you to that? Share from reflection, not reaction. This made me think differently. What's your take? Over time, you'll notice your conversations aren't just talks. They're connections, moments that linger in hearts and minds. You'll become the person others seek, not for answers, but for understanding. Not for noise, but for clarity. Yet, the Stoic path doesn't end in dialogue. To fully embody wisdom, we must carry it beyond words, into a presence that speaks louder than speech. A charisma born not of show, but of soul. That's where the Stoic ideal comes alive, where intelligence becomes not just a skill, but a legacy. In a world that often equates charisma with loud bravado or polished charm, the Stoics offer a deeper, more enduring vision. True charisma flows not from performance, but from presence. Not from flash, but from depth. Not from ego, but from authenticity. Marcus Aurelius didn't captivate Rome with theatrics. He did it with a quiet strength, a mind so clear and a heart so steady that people felt not just heard, but understood. The Stoics' charisma isn't about demanding attention. It's about commanding respect, not through volume but through wisdom, not by dazzling but by illuminating. It's the rare gift of being so rooted in knowledge and integrity that your very being becomes a beacon, drawing others in with a warmth that feels like home. This is charisma through knowledge, a magnetic force that inspires because it serves, uplifts because it's true, and endures because it's real. Picture someone who walks into a room and shifts its air, not with a booming laugh or a rehearsed line, but with a stillness that feels alive. They listen before they speak, their eyes attentive, their silence inviting. When they do talk, their words land softly but stay long, like ripples on a lake. They don't chase applause, yet people hang on their thoughts not because they're clever, but because they're meaningful. This is the Stoic ideal of charisma, a presence forged in solitude, sharpened by curiosity, and polished by reflection. It's not about being the loudest voice, but the one that resonates. Not the brightest light, but the one that guides. It's intelligence made human, wisdom made warm, knowledge made a gift. Let's bring this to life with a story. Meet Amara, a 38-year-old librarian in Boston. She's never been the outgoing type. Her world is books, ideas, quiet corners. But at her library's community events, she notices people gravitate toward her. It's not her job title or her style. It's her presence. Amara has a habit. Each evening, she reflects on something she's learned. A novel's theme, a patron's question, a podcast's insight. She asks herself, what does this teach me about life? And lets the answer simmer. At a book club, when others argue over a plot, Amara listens, then speaks slowly. I wonder if this character's choice mirrors how we all chase peace but fear change. The room quiets, not because she's loud, but because her words feel true. At a staff meeting, when tensions rise, she offers, maybe we're all saying the same thing, just differently. And suddenly, clarity emerges. People seek her out, not for facts, but for perspective. Not for solutions, but for understanding. Amara's charisma isn't showy. It's steady. A calm fire that warms without burning, built on knowledge she's lived, not just learned. This is the Stoics' charisma, a quiet command that doesn't shout but sings. The Stoics didn't seek followers. They sought truth, and in doing so, they became magnetic. Seneca wrote, let your conversation be simple and sincere, not because simplicity is meek, but because it's powerful. When you speak from reflection, your words carry the weight of thought, not the fluff of impulse. Modern psychology echoes this. A 2020 study in the Leadership Quarterly found that leaders rated as charismatic weren't the loudest. They were the most authentic, their presence grounded in clarity and empathy. When Amara spoke at her book club, she wasn't performing. She was sharing. Her insight a bridge to others' thoughts. This authenticity is what makes the Stoics shine. They don't pretend to know everything, but what they know deeply, and what they share with care. But this charisma isn't accidental. It's cultivated. The Stoics built it through habits we can embrace. Speaking slowly, as Amara did, gives your words gravity, letting ideas breathe. Allowing silence, not as awkwardness but as space, invites connection. Research shows pauses in conversation boost trust, signaling you're present, not rushed. Balancing confidence with humility, saying, this is what I think, but I could be wrong, opens doors to dialogue, not debate. These aren't tricks. They're choices, rooted in the Stoic belief that wisdom is for serving, not showcasing. Marcus didn't lead to be loved. He led to be just his charisma, a byproduct of his integrity. Today, that might look like calming a heated argument with a thoughtful question. or sharing a hard-earned lesson with a friend, not to impress but to uplift. It's presence that says, "I'm here and I see you." And here's the deeper truth. This charisma transforms not just how others perceive you, but how you perceive yourself. When you speak with depth, you feel aligned, as if your mind and soul are in sync. When you listen with care, you grow, learning not just from words but from the human behind them. When you inspire without trying, you realize your knowledge isn't just power, it's purpose. This is what made figures like Maya Angelou magnetic. Not her fame, but her ability to speak truths that felt universal, her presence a hug through words. Or consider Keanu Reeves, whose quiet sincerity in interviews makes fans feel like friends, his humility a canvas for connection. These modern Stoics show that charisma isn't about standing out, it's about standing true. The Stoics' charisma also endures because it's selfless. It doesn't crave validation, it offers value. When you share an insight, you're not seeking likes, you're planting seeds. When you listen, you're not waiting your turn, you're building trust. A 2021 study in Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that people who prioritize others' growth over self-promotion are seen as more influential long-term. Amara's book club didn't remember her quotes. They remembered how she made them feel. Heard, valued, alive. This is charisma as service, a legacy that outlives fleeting applause. Start small. Practice speaking deliberately, letting silence amplify your words. Share insights from your reflections, not to shine but to connect. Listen as if every story holds a lesson. Over time, you'll notice people don't just hear you. They seek you, drawn to a presence that feels like clarity in a cloudy world. You'll become not just charismatic, but unforgettable. Your knowledge a light that doesn't blind but guides. The Stoic ideal isn't a distant dream. It's a way of being, a life where intelligence blooms into wisdom, where knowledge becomes purpose, where presence becomes impact. The Stoic sage, as Marcus Aurelius envisioned, isn't just learned. They're alive, balancing solitude's stillness with society's energy, logic's clarity with emotion's warmth. They don't chase brilliance to boast. They cultivate it to serve, to inspire, to live true to principles that endure. This is the heart of Stoic intelligence. A harmony of clear thought, compassionate action, and purposeful living that creates a life not just meaningful, but transformative. Think back to the journey we've traveled. In solitude, we forged our minds, finding clarity amid silence. Through curiosity, we fueled our growth, turning questions into quests. With deep thinking, we carved wisdom from chaos, seeing truths others missed. By teaching, we refined our mastery, sharing knowledge to deepen our own. In society, we shone, not by dominating but by elevating, our presence a quiet force. In creativity, we sparked new ideas, solitude our canvas for imagination. Through the Curiosity-Solitude Loop, we wove learning into life, each question a thread of insight. In conversation, we became philosophers, building bridges with words. And through charisma, we learned that true influence comes not from noise, but from truth, a presence so authentic it lingers in souls. This is the Stoic ideal, a person who doesn't just know, but understands, who doesn't just act, but intends, who doesn't just live, but matters. They're not flawless, they're human, striving daily to align with virtue. Marcus wasn't perfect. He doubted, he struggled, yet he reflected, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's the Stoic call. Not to be the smartest, but the wisest. Not to have all the answers, but to ask the right questions. Not to seek praise, but to seek purpose. Consider someone like Viktor Frankl, a modern Stoic in spirit. In the horrors of a concentration camp, he found meaning, not by denying pain, but by reflecting on it, teaching it, living it. His book, Man's Search for Meaning, didn't just inform. It transformed. Its wisdom a lifeline for millions. Or think of everyday Stoics. The teacher who listens to a struggling student, the friend who shares a hard-won lesson, the colleague who calms a crisis with clarity. These aren't heroes, they're us. When we choose to live with intention, to balance thought and heart, to serve through wisdom, the Stoic ideal is within reach. It starts with a choice. to reflect in solitude, to question with curiosity, to think deeply, to share generously, to converse thoughtfully, to create boldly, to shine quietly. Each step builds a life that doesn't just pass. It resonates, a legacy not of fame but of impact. This intelligence isn't cold. It's warm, woven with compassion, grounded in clarity, driven by purpose. It's a life where every moment is a chance to grow, every interaction a chance to give, every challenge a chance to rise. So what does this mean for you right now in the rush of modern life? The Stoic path isn't about retreating to a cave or mastering philosophy overnight. It's about small, deliberate choices that add up to a life of meaning. Start today. Carve out 10 minutes of solitude to reflect on one question. What matters to me? Read something new, not to impress, but to grow, and ask, how does this connect to my life? Listen to a friend, not to reply, but to understand, and share an insight that feels true, not flashy. Speak slowly, act thoughtfully, live intentionally. These aren't grand gestures. They're quiet revolutions, transforming your mind, your relationships, your world, one moment at a time. In our age of noise, endless notifications, polarized debates, fleeting trends, the Stoic ideal is a rebellion. It's choosing presence over distraction, depth over haste, service over self. It's building a mind that doesn't just survive chaos, but thrives in it. A heart that doesn't just feel, but lifts others. You don't need to be perfect, just willing. Each question you ask, each truth you chase, each person you inspire brings you closer to that ideal. A life not just lived, but crafted. A legacy not just left, but loved. Here's our call to action. Join us on this journey at ZenLight 8. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and dive into our videos to explore more Stoic wisdom for today's world. Share this video with someone who needs a spark of clarity, and let's grow wiser together. And before you go, drop one word in the comments. Presence. It's the essence of the Stoic life, being here, fully, deeply, truly. Let's inspire each other to live it, one moment at a time.